just because everybody is or isn't doing something has no bearing on if it's needed or required. It always comes down to the policy language says you agree with us that we can do that. Please stop doing that.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Airing of Grievances. My name is Reamer. That, of course, is the legend, the myth, the man himself, Robert Grieve, and we are ever so grateful that you've taken time out of your day to join us for ours. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you don't mind, we would very much appreciate it if you click the subscribe button and then move on over to that thumbs up button and give that a thumbs up. That helps YouTube understand that this is information, content that is worthy of sharing. It helps the channel out a little bit, but it really helps somebody find this who might actually need it, and we're grateful for that. We were talking just a little while ago about the fact that people come up to you now all around the country and say thank you for putting this content out there, and we are 3 years into it, so
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, it is Saturday, so our tradition is to say, Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to my dear friends. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of it. Thanks for the support. Thanks for being you.
Absolutely. And today we've got a good one. We do encourage you to stay all the way to the end. You know, we've been kind of talking Sherlock Holmes and mysteries for the last couple of weeks. Here's another one, and I think you put it out on social media, to find what's going on with a certain picture. We'll show that to you in just a moment.
Yep.
But our question of the day is, how well is your covered vehicle actually covered? So, with that being the case, Rob, I turn it over to you, brother.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. I just got back from the Toyota conference, which was absolutely amazing. And what was even made it more special for me is how many people came up and talked about the videos that we're doing and how they used them and shared them with other people, and it makes it all worth it. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read just a little bit out of a sample insurance policy. And this may or may not be what your policy says, but there's a good shot that it's going to be incredibly close, seeing this is the largest property and casualty insurer in America.
Well, okay.
So, who knows? It may be your policy.
Your first task is to guess who we're talking about.
But when it comes to repairing your vehicle after you've had a loss, here's what the policy has to say.
Okay.
And this is really, really important for you to understand whether you have this policy or another one.
Yeah.
Because you may or may not be agreeing to something that you didn't have any intention on agreeing to begin with, but yet by the virtue of you paying the premiums for the policy, it says right in here in bold letters.
Okay.
You agree.
And we agree. And
so I agree that it's important for you to understand this stuff, because when it comes to the execution of this, it may not be what you're expecting, but it is certainly what they are expecting.
This is one of those cases where your pronouns will define your success.
Thank you, Richard. So what this policy starts out with is, we have the right to choose one of the following to determine the cost to repair the covered vehicle. So this is after a loss, had an accident. This is their way of how they're going to reimburse you.
And the we is the insurer
Yes.
in question.
We in bold. And then covered vehicle. And they're bold. That's bold because it has to be covered under the policy.
Correct.
So that's an important thing. So they have a few different things, A, B, and C, right on the front page here. So A, the cost agreed by both the owner of the covered vehicle and us. So that's one way they can determine the cost to repair a covered vehicle.
Okay.
So that'd be the cost agreed by both the owner of the covered vehicle and us. That's A.
That's A.
B, a bid or repair estimate approved by us. So you go to a body shop, they write up an estimate, and they approve it. That is the second way that they can determine the cost to repair.
All right.
The third way, which has a whole lot more information, and is the way they generally always pick. They leapfrog over A and B for C.
Oh.
So, C, a repair estimate that is written based upon or adjusted to the prevailing competitive price. That's number one. Number two, the lower of paintless dent repair pricing established by an agreement we, the insurer, have with a third party. So they make a deal with a third party to do it for a very small amount of money. Now that's all they owe you, no matter where you take it, is what that just said. And that's in the paintless dent repair realm for like hail and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And so there's one other thing in this C. So it's 1, 2, and 3, a combination of both 1 and 2 above.
I used to fill that in on my tests in school.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah. The prevailing competitive price means prices charged by a majority of the repair market in an area where the covered vehicle is to be repaired as determined by a survey made by us, the insurer. If asked, we will identify some facilities that will perform the repairs at the prevailing competitive price.
I bet they will.
The estimate will include parts sufficient to restore the covered vehicle to its pre-loss condition. Okay. They're using words here, prevailing competitive price. When you talk to them on the phone or they write you emails, sometimes they'll use words like reasonable and customary.
Mm-hmm.
Reasonable and customary is more driven towards the health insurance world.
Yes.
As far as paying claims.
Right.
It's not associated with property damage.
Okay.
What's associated with property damage is prevailing competitive price. And other things you might hear is industry standard.
I was going to ask about industry standard.
Industry standard. They love using that as well. Notice they don't mention either of those terms in the policy.
No, because industry standard is much more of a global response.
And it's all fluff.
Yeah.
It's all fluff. But the policy, your contract, if this is your contract, is the prevailing competitive price.
Right.
So we asked our friends at ChatGPT, in the space of property and casualty insurance, what is the definition of prevailing competitive price? And in milliseconds,
Yes.
they came up, in the context of property and casualty insurance, the term prevailing competitive price refers to the average price or rate that is common in a specific geographical area for certain services or repairs, often related to auto and home repair claims. This price is determined by evaluating the cost charged by a majority of the providers or repair businesses within that area. Insurers use this figure to decide the reasonable amount to pay for claims. Ensuring with an EN, ensuring the payment reflects what is typical and fair in the market, rather than just the highest or the lowest available prices. The prevailing competitive price helps the insureds manage their payouts for claims based on the standardization of market rates, maintaining fairness and consistency in handling claims.
Fairness.
and consistency. So, let's unpack that for a second.
Better buckle up and get another cup of coffee.
So, even though every shop, and we have roughly 700 to 900 of them on the Front Range here, every shop is different.
Sure.
And every accident is different. So, what they try to do with this is to fit it all into a nice, neat box so they can anticipate their claims payouts.
Right.
All right? But does it take into consideration different things about the shop doing the repair? Such as how much they've invested in training their employees, how much they've invested in specialized equipment to fix certain vehicle lines that require different tools.
Right.
And whether they're certified in your vehicle or not. And a certified shop, even if it's not one of the best certifications, which there's different level of certifications through the OEMs, there's an investment for the shop to maintain the right tools, the right training, the right frequency of training, to be updated all the time, to be able to read procedures, find procedures, understand how to fix the car properly. It is far more expensive as that business to operate in that space than it is for a shop that doesn't do any of these things. And yet, they feel as though it's, what did they call it? Fairness and consistency in handling
Similar
claims.
cases. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what that really means is if you take your vehicle to a competent repair facility that has invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in specializing in things and having the right tools and equipment and an accountability to a third party,
Right.
like the manufacturer that is certifying you, they all have to go through audits. Well, the better ones have to go through audits every year, files and cars in process, and
Sure.
verify serial numbers on tools and all the rest of this other stuff. This prevailing competitive price is all the insurer has to pay you to get your car fixed.
Right.
And I know lots of places that are in this game of, and remember what they said. If asked, we will identify some facilities that will perform the repairs at the prevailing competitive price. In other words, for what they want to pay.
That's right.
And that shop has got a contract with them to fix it for what they want to pay. And if you don't want to pay anything out of pocket, you should go to one of these places. They're generally not certified. They don't go through any abundance of training, especially not specific training on your vehicle.
Right.
And they only owe you what they're going to pay Bob's Backyard Body Shop and Barbecue.
Got it.
So, you're not going to get what you expect to get, but that's all they owe you according to your policy, as I read it.
Okay.
Let's go to an example. A young mom came by today and said, I had my vehicle fixed at X Body Shop. X Body Shop happens to be the largest national chain, and the largest property and casualty insurer is the one that was involved. And she said, can you take a look at a couple of things? I'm really not too sure about the repairs on this vehicle. And so, why don't you pop up this picture?
There it is.
And I know there's a lot of stuff going on in this picture, but I wonder if you can see what I'm seeing.
Are you looking at the cup holders in the baby seat?
Yeah, the baby seat. Isn't that a nice baby seat?
It's a very nice baby seat. I've never seen one with cup holders, but
Yeah.
not one but two, coffee and
Tea.
the beverage of your choice.
So let's just get right to it, and Eric has taken the time to cut it out and make it so you can see clearly what I'm talking about.
Take a look at this.
That is the shoulder seat belt that was not reinstalled at all in the vehicle and is just dangling.
What do you mean it's dangling? Oh, let me zoom in.
It's just dangling.
What is that?
It gets bolted into the lower part of where the floor and the quarter panel meet in a very specific location. And when you bolt that in, you can't just, I could have been a nice guy and just screwed it in for them. But you need to know what torque setting that thing needs to be torqued at, which means you have to do some research because nobody knows that off the top of their head. If you're watching this and know what the torque spec for that is right off the top of your head, go ahead and pop it in the comments.
And not only that, let us know how much you paid for the actual procedures that you had to pull in order to know that information.
Right. So this is done, again, at one of those places that they guarantee will fix it for the, what do we call it?
Prevailing
competitive price. That's something you can see. I found all sorts of stuff that the guest did not know just by really walking around the vehicle.
I just had an epiphany. Prevailing competitive price, if you wanted to just save a little bit of time and, avoid paper in the landfill, you could abbreviate that with PCP, but the last time I found, it's illegal in most states.
All right, so I just want to cover two more topics in this section, three more maybe.
All right.
Here is where you agree with us comes in. And the you, meaning the policyholders, is bold, and the us, meaning the insurer, is bold.
Okay.
All right? So you agree with us that the repair estimate may include used, recycled, and reconditioned parts. Any of these parts may be either original equipment manufacturer or non-original equipment manufacturer parts.
There's no question mark in there. It's a statement.
Yes.
You and us agree.
Yes. So by virtue of you paying the premium, you agree with us or them that it's okay to fix your car this way. This is a huge pain point when people want to get their car fixed properly. And with the OEM, original and manufacturer equipment parts, not some knockoff parts from a third world country.
Right.
It always comes down to the policy language says you agree with us that we can do that. Please stop doing that. You also agree that replacement glass needed not have an insignia, logo, or trademark etching or other marking that was on the replaced glass. That means you're not going to get OEM glass from the manufacturer. You're going to get some knockoff glass.
Wow.
You don't want that in your vehicle either, especially with new vehicles today and the technology that is looking through that glass.
You bet.
Or if it has heads-up display or any of these other night vision. There's some of them that have night vision. That's all in the heads-up display. You don't want that stuff.
Right. You
want OEM, original equipment manufacturer glass in your vehicle, always. And that has a little stamp on it that says Lexus or Nissan or Subaru or whatever the case is, whatever car you're driving. And they're saying that you agree that you don't need that.
We can use whatever we want and don't worry about the logo.
Yes. Okay. Here's the other really important thing, folks. The cost to repair the covered vehicle does not include any reduction in the value of the covered vehicle after it has been repaired, as compared to its value before it was damaged. This is what we call diminished value. And what they're saying is they're not going to cover diminished value. They don't owe you diminished value. Typically speaking, that's almost in every policy. The diminished value, if somebody hit you, is going to be gone against the third-party insurance company, the person that hit you.
Right.
If this accident was done by yourself, you're out of luck. But one thing is for sure, your car is going to suffer tremendous diminished value because of the parts that you agreed was okay to put on your vehicle.
Right.
That car becomes much less value compared to an identical vehicle that either hasn't been in an accident or has been fixed with OEM parts.
Agreed.
So they, by virtue of what they're going to pay and what you agreed to, your vehicle is going to suffer diminished value, and yet you've also agreed that they don't owe you any of it.
They're not paying it.
So here's another interesting thing for this policy. And it's the last thing I'm going to call out of the policy here. The owner of the covered vehicle and we, the insurance company, must agree upon the actual cash value of the covered vehicle. Not the repairs. Not the repairs. This is for if your vehicle becomes a total loss.
Right.
So let me read that again. The owner of the covered vehicle and we must agree on the actual cash value of the covered vehicle. If there is a disagreement as to the actual cash value of the covered vehicle, then this disagreement will be resolved by appraisal upon written request of the owner to us using the following procedures. So this is the appraisal clause in this policy, although it's not called the appraisal clause and it doesn't really jump off the page at you. But the appraisal clause in this policy is only if your vehicle is declared a total loss.
Right.
If it's repairable, we go back up to all the conditions that we talked about before.
Which are not very neighborly.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what I've got for today. I think it's important that you understand your policy, that you understand that there's differences in the places that you may choose to have your vehicle repaired. If you really don't care about the vehicle, or I don't want to say your safety, everybody cares about their safety, but does the place that you're taking it to care as much about it as you?
Yeah. Can we revisit, before we close this up, that picture that we talked about and that safety restraint?
Mm-hmm.
What's the main concern? Because, you know, this is obviously with a child car seat.
Yep. There is a child car seat there.
And typically those are the belt restraints.
Lap belt.
That keep that car seat where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the concern not having that other strap bolted down?
Yeah, the shoulder strap. Well, the concern is if you take the baby seat out and you put somebody else there, they don't have a shoulder strap because it's not bolted to the vehicle where it's supposed to be bolted.
Okay.
The second concern, and maybe even a greater concern, is that bolt, because it's swinging around on the end of a seat belt, could become a projectile if there was another accident. So maybe you get hit from the rear, the thing flies forward and comes back. Is it going to hit anybody?
And it may not even take an accident for that. You know, hard brake.
Yeah, could be hard braking, could be anything. Look, somebody asked me, oh, I wonder if the lock would, you know, because if you pull on the strap real hard or you're involved in an accident, that seatbelt locks.
Right.
And somebody asked me, do you think if it was involved in an accident, if it would lock and not go any further? And I'm like, well, the only thing I can answer that with is I don't think the engineers were posed with that question when they were designing how this system works.
Well said.
Now, I know it was an oversight by the body shop that it was released that way. And it isn't a huge deal to put the bolt back in and torque it to the right spec to make sure that it's going to function as designed.
Right.
But it is an incredible safety hazard to have just hanging around there.
And more to the point, It was not fully repaired.
Yes. See, the insurer that is got the contract with this particular shop nationwide, they don't supervise the shops. They don't supervise what's going on inside the shops. I've never heard of any audits performed to make sure that they have the tools and equipment and training and so on and so forth. I think there are some standards for training, but it's not specific training.
Right.
It is not specific to your vehicle. We're Lexus authorized, we're Toyota certified, we're Lucid authorized. We go through massive amounts of training and have to go to meetings and updated
And you're audited.
and audited, files pulled, or the procedures there, and you know that the insurance company says, well, we don't owe for that, you know, because they don't owe for that because it's not.
You and they did not agree.
Yeah, because if everybody's not doing it, then it's not prevailing.
Right. I should say, you and they agreed differently.
Yes. And so when we talk about prevailing, I'm just going to make this one last point. Just because everybody is or isn't doing something has no bearing on if it's needed or required by the manufacturer when repairing that vehicle.
Right.
If everybody else is not following the procedure to do X, and it's a safety-related, like airbag sensor, like we spoke about last week.
Right.
Well, if everybody's not doing that, which we know everybody's not doing that, then the insurance company doesn't owe for it because it's not prevailing. Is that the way you want your policy to work?
No.
Be very, very careful who you choose to do insurance with. We run into this day in and day out. They will only pay what every other body shop, trained, untrained, equipped, not equipped, it doesn't matter. If nobody else is doing it, then they don't owe for it, even though they know it's the right thing to do. So I'll leave you with that.
It's good stuff, Rob. Thank you so much. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you, my dear friends. Thanks for hanging in with us. I hope this was helpful, and you take a chance to look at your own policy, see what it says, ask questions. As far as that goes, I just want you to have an amazing week. We'll see you next Saturday. God bless.